Maddi Shaw of the Brattleboro Reformer. Good morning to you, Maddi.
Morning, Chris.
And sorry to hear you seem to have had a little bit of a later night than anticipated due to some vehicle trouble.
Yes, a later night for many reasons. I don't usually work Mondays, but I just got back from Maine last night, and I was called to a fire last night, and I covered that. And then when I was on my way home, I broke down right off exit 4, headed north.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
I mean, I was in my hometown. At least I was in Putney, so thank God for moms being able to come and save the day.
Right, yeah, you could have been somewhere in that no man's land between exit 3 and 4 and have it been, and no cell phone reception land, too, possibly, in that area. So this is the fire, you just say this story made it online. It didn't make it into the print edition this morning, right? This is the fire you covered last night. Tell us about that. Yeah,
there was a fire out past Route 9 it was a structure fire. It came in as a structure fire, and it was actually the art studio of local artist Gidding and his wife. They have this little structure, like kind of near their house, that has collected about 100 of his paintings over 40 years or so, and it was completely destroyed. When I talked to him last night, and I talked to Mike Bukasi, the fire chief, they didn't know for sure the cause of things, but it was looking pretty likely that it was a propane tank that exploded. That's actually what Jim heard from his house. He heard like a boom, an explosion noise, and he went up and saw it was completely in flames. So it was like a second alarm fire. A lot of departments responded. They were, it's not a hydrant zone, so they were bringing in a lot of tankers for water. But anyways, but yeah, it was a total loss. Pretty sad.
And this is where he stored his artwork, not a studio, not where he did the work, or was it a little of both?
It's both. He said that it's like, his space for creative process, but also his storage for because he said he only has about 10 to a dozen paintings in the gallery on Main Street.
Right.
This is where he keeps them. So
I was going to say most people are probably familiar with the Main Street, I think Mitchell Gidding's gallery, right on Main Street is what it's called on. And so his studio out there off of Route 9, and sounds like a terrible thing. I hope he was insured, but we'll certainly have to. Okay, good. There's a somewhat happy ending. Not to say that you can replace. How many years of work did you say it was that he had stored in there?
He said 45 years.
Oh my goodness gracious! Wow.
Yeah.
So that story is on reformer.com, and we'll probably make the Wednesday edition of the paper, the print edition of that. Did Chris Ratter join you out there for photography?
He did. We hiked up a really long road together for a mile.
Okay. and then a really long road home because of the car trouble. Certainly sorry to hear that.
True. That's life.
That's life. Story that you had in the weekend edition that certainly got a lot of attention was your story about the Deerfield Valley recovering from Tropical Storm Irene, and the whole special insert. I spoke to your editor, Bob Audette, on Friday about the whole insert. Sounds like you've been working on this for quite some time.
Yeah, it was definitely an involved piece. It involved a lot of research, making sure everyone in the newsroom had the right numbers and updated information, because so we worked with the governor's office to get some of those statistics about, how many bridges were lost and how many miles of state highway were damaged. And I focused on the town of Wilmington because, at the Reformer we just cover Windham County, and so it was kind of interesting that Wilmington, unfortunately, was the town in Vermont that got struck the most, like in terms of disaster flooding.
I didn't realize until reading your article. I think you said it was the second most devastated town.
Yeah,
I didn't realize. I knew it was one of the ones where really it was one of the hardest hit, but I didn't realize it was top 2.
That's what according to town manager Scott Murphy. Yes.
Sure. Well, he would know. I'm sure they're measuring that by dollars and things like that. Now, it's the 5-year anniversary this past Sunday of Irene. So when I did my math, that puts you back in high school here in the area, correct, Maddi?
I was in my freshman year of college.
You were already up in Maine. Okay,
Yep.
I wasn't sure exactly
Yep.
if you had firsthand memories of Tropical Storm Irene, but you were probably just hearing reports from it personally from afar about what was happening in your community.
There was just a bunch of puddles on campus, and I thought we had it bad because it was like my feet were really soaked, but it was nothing in compared to what Brattleboro and surrounding towns had to endure.
Yeah. So going there and talking to folks in the Wilmington area about it now 5 years later, your perceptions of it then versus what you learned about it doing that story.
Well, in talking with people in Wilmington, I found that they still want to take other safety measures in case, because, Wilmington is just in a flood zone, like the downtown area.
Right.
And it's kind of been hush-hush for a while. Like, not much has been done with particularly the police department and the administrative building, which is connected. And that is an issue, they think, to have, like, your emergency responders in a flood zone. So when I talked to the police chief, he really was strongly saying, I really think something needs to be done again, brought up and talked about for us moving. And the town manager, Scott Murphy, said, other things have come up. That's just how it is, but we do want to address it. So,
it seems to me
really what I found was the most striking when people were talking about it, is feeling like, I don't know, there is this insecurity that it could happen again, and there's not really, like, yes, they got new buildings and they're a little bit more flood resilient, but they're still in that zone that, like,
right.
Damage stuff.
There are certain the natural topography of that area makes them prone no matter what they do, unless they put everything up on stilts about 50 feet in the air, and that's probably not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
It does seem, however, like the private sector, and I guess that includes some of the nonprofit organizations. I think of Historic Memorial Hall, doing some of the work they did there, or a Dot's Diner. It does seem to me that some of the businesses, some of the reasons people go there have gotten pretty far in their recovery, maybe even more so than the town services. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Dot's definitely was fortunate. They've received a lot of grant funding and support. There was a lot of campaigns around those businesses, which is important. For the economics of the town, they needed that. They needed to be brought back. So I think, there was some attention on that. I don't know if I can say there was more, because the police responders and firefighters are crucial to the town. But, there was a lot of attention to Dots.
Yeah.
That was definitely, we remember that a couple of years ago, a lot of media attention around them.
Big landmark there for many people who have visited the Deerfield Valley over the years. And nice of you to do that story in the special insert on Tropical Storm Irene in this weekend edition of The Reformer, still online at reformer.com as well. Of course, Maddi Shaw covering a number of different communities here for the Brattleboro Reformer. We'll talk about some other stories when we come back after the bottom of the hour news break here on Green Mountain Mornings. 59 degrees outside, 20 minutes before the 9 o'clock hour. Chris Lenois continuing our conversation here on Green Mountain Mornings with Brattleboro Reformer reporter Maddi Shaw. Phoning it in this morning, quite literally. You're not phoning it in as in you're not trying, though, Maddi. You're just on the phone this morning.
Jeez, watch yourself.
Yeah, right? I was phoning it in. That has that double connotation, but that's not the case here. A lot of stories that you were covering over the past week here. The Justin Beebe Memorial at Bells Falls Union High School. Thousands of people in attendance. I don't know what the capacity is of the Brattleboro or the Bellows Falls Union High School, but I'm not surprised that so many people turned out to honor really somebody who is a hero. What did you learn about him in covering that event?
He was just a really sincere guy. That was really loved by his community and everyone that he kind of met along his way in life. 26 years old, that's just not a long time on this earth, but it was clear that he made an impact in those years. And it was nice to hear a variety of speakers because we've been hearing a lot about his firefighting career and that, he died doing what he loved, which is true. Being a hotshot, being a hotshot firefighter out in Nevada is where he died. But then there were speakers like his two athletic varsity coaches who talked about, his drive in that way. And then his best friend from elementary school and so on, and just talked about, the simple things in life that they did together. His fiance spoke, mom, aunt, a variety of people talking, but like the same theme coming about in their words, just that, he was gentle but also driven to give it his best in whatever he did.
Yeah, this was a national story, really. As you mentioned, he was a member of the Lolo Hotshots firefighting crew, which are based out of Missoula, Montana. And then he died fighting that wildfire out in Nevada. They had a service for him in Montana that they paid for his family to fly out to, honored there, and then bringing him back home. Chris Ratter had photos of that, of him being brought back home prior to your coverage of the memorial service at the Bellows Falls Union High School. And when somebody goes away like that, they don't necessarily keep as many ties to the community. But obviously, he was still very much considered himself a Westminster boy.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I mean, it just, it was special that they were able to have something in Bellows Falls, and that he was so remembered and they were so proud of him along his journey while he was out in Missoula, Montana. That's where he was based as a hotshot. So to bring that back home and talk about his career as a firefighter and talk about the memories that he had when he did live locally was really cool. I mean, I definitely was trying to keep it together, but was a crying mess.
You didn't? Did you know Justin? I know that.
No, I didn't. But I mean, it's just like it's very sad.
Yeah, you can't help but get caught up in the emotion of a situation like that. I wanted you to compare that to another story you did earlier in the week when the Patriot Guard riders came through town, bringing the remains of this Civil War person, Jewett Williams. Is the name of this Civil War veteran, and this was just a stop-off as they bring his remains up to Maine. But I was very struck by a similarity there in that, firefighters are honored like military veterans, like military heroes, and I don't know if you saw some similarities there.
Yes. Well, back up a little bit, but when I was there when Justin's remains were being brought in through town. And I mean, I got there early, but I asked, did you guys know Justin? And they're like, no, but a firefighter is a firefighter. And that's kind of, I guess, what I find in just a lot of military and emergency responders. They really have a respect for their fellow, I guess, workers, I don't know how to say it, but they're going to support each other. And I mean, as members of the Honor Guard, they're called to do that too, like at the Legion. So that's, obviously no one personally knew Jewett Williams, the Civil War vet, but they rallied together for this opportunity to keep history alive. A big part of that is not letting people be forgotten, not letting history be forgotten, and doing it in a respectful and honoring way. And, there was, I don't know how many bikes there were, but a lot of bikes lining Main Street that came in for this Patriot Guard ride. So.
It was something that I didn't know that there was a Patriot Guard before reading your story. Is it something they reached out to tell you all that they were coming through town and doing this?
I didn't know either.
Yeah, I think it's a really great idea.
Right. So I don't know. I got assigned to it, so I'm not sure how we were approached. I'm sure they sent a press release. But yeah, there is a Vermont Patriot Guard, a Connecticut Patriot Guard. Someone from Connecticut Patriot Guard called me after they read the article and had some follow-up questions. So there's definitely a lot of people that are following it, and especially with Jewett Williams. If you just search Jewett Williams Civil War, you're going to find other news sources that have been writing about this Patriot Guard driving from out west up to Maine to bring back his remains that hadn't been claimed by anyone.
It seems to me that that's just a serendipitous circumstance of our geography that this happened in a community like Brattleboro. There might have been somebody at lobbying for it to stop here. But it does also seem like it's something where it's like we are fortunate in southern Vermont, in the southeast corner of Vermont, bordering Massachusetts, bordering New Hampshire, being close to these other places, that we get these opportunities. And it's great that the community turns out for it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I love this location. Like you said, like right on the border. Keene is right over the bridge, Chesterfield's right over the bridge, and then got Massachusetts, only 2 hours from Boston.
Yep.
Pretty convenient. So yeah, I think other cities like Rhode Island wasn't originally going to have the stop, but once they heard that we were, they jumped on board, and so they made it a more of a trip also.
They just want to be like us in Rhode Island, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Indeed. And it's a great motorcycle area, too. A lot of people like to drive through here on their motorcycles. It's a big corridor for a lot of things. So very appropriate that the Patriot Guard riders came through here. Now, shifting gears completely to a weekend story that you did about the Rich Earth Institute, organization here in this community experimenting with fertilization using human urine in the fields. And they were just holding the second annual Urine Diversion Summit here in town.
Yeah. I don't really know how to, yes.
Did you fight the assignment on this, or did you go all in on it?
I definitely made a joke about it on Facebook.
Right.
Like when you get assigned to covering a urine summit, only in, or I said hashtag only in Vermont or something. Like, it just happened. It's just, it was definitely a little odd to get assigned to it, but I see their vision in wanting to, reuse what we have as fertilizer. It makes sense. I mean, it's not straight pee, like it's pasteurized and goes through a process where it's sanitized, and that's great. So Brattleboro's getting behind it. They have 100 people locally that donate their urine that can be distributed onto farms. So it's still in, I guess, the preliminary stages. They still send it to labs and are researching the best ways to do this. So I guess you could say that this institute is kind of, the Rich Earth Institute is kind of pioneering this idea.
Was it an update? I know that they have some land that they've been working on. I mean, what were some of the topics of the summit? Was it more an update on the works they're doing, or do they talk about innovations? What exactly was the nature of the content?
So I was not at the summit. I just talked to them when they went to the farm, but I know that they did talk. They all kind of collaborated and talked about the research they have been doing. Some internationally, like a woman that I mentioned in the article is working to help get the toilet that separates like the urine from the solids, and she's trying to bring that toilet into refugee camps where there are not a lot of toilets and there has been droughts and such. So anyways, they talked about like what people are doing from all over the world and how they can grow this. It was kind of, I'm trying to think about other topics, but I know that it was mostly just collaborating about what's been going on.
Yeah, well, I know it's something they've been working on, trying to get more funding for, and certainly more support for. And so I didn't know if there's any updates there.
Well, I know that I did talk to one woman, and she's like a volunteer, and she's kind of looking at the psychology of it, like what are people's stigmas, and how can they get community support for this, because that is important. I mean, I definitely think it's obvious that like a lot of people are kind of, ew, gross, like why would you do that? Like, doesn't it smell? So they're talking about ways of perception, and also they are talking about the smell. So like adding vinegar to it, I guess, helps reduce that aroma.
Yeah. Well, I remember it was a few years ago, and I think it was on the Reformer website. One of your colleagues there, prior to you coming on board, did some video with the Rich Earth Institute, and somebody who works as it's crazy when you think about it that we just waste all this water, just flush it all down the drain. And actually, I never really thought about it at all. But when you do think about it, it's like, we are kind of wasting all this water. So good luck to them in terms of those research that they're doing. And the third annual Urine Diversion Summit, look for it sometime probably next year around the same time. Of course, you'll have a lot of stories to cover between now and then. You mentioned the fire that people will probably see the article about in tomorrow's edition. It's online now, reformer.com, the Giddings, Jim Giddings fire. Other stories that you're working on that people might see with your byline?
I am working on a big project right now, kind of an enterprise story. I can't talk about much of it.
Ooh, top secret.
Surprise.
Yeah.
But it will definitely be out in the next probably couple weeks.
What do you mean by an enterprise story? Is that it's a business story, or is that jargon?
It's more of we all do our own story, an quote unquote enterprise story throughout the year, and we get to choose a topic that's kind of relevant and that we need to research more. I really am trying to not say anything.
No, that's fine. It's jargon though.
I've been working on it since November. I'll say that.
Okay, but it's jargon then. It's something that you call it in the news, and I either think something business related or Star Trek, and it doesn't sound like it's either of those.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, you go explore those strange new worlds, Maddi, but appreciate you being part of this one this morning. I hope your car gets better soon.
Thanks.
All right. Maddi Shaw, the Brattleboro Reformer, reformer.com, their online home. We will be back to wrap up this edition of Green Mountain Mornings after these messages.